spend so much time when we're younger being inspired by other songwriters or composers and trying to kind of imitate. It can come off as competent, but not authentic. So getting to authenticity is a journey that requires getting past that stage. And that took me many years before I finally realized I have my own voice.
Hello, Cal Poly Pomona students, faculty, staff, and beyond. My name is Henry Lee. I'm a music industry studies student and the host of CPP Music Couches, where we highlight members of the Cal Poly Pomona music community and have a talk as if we were sitting on the couches in the music department. Today's guest is Dr. Buzz Gravelle. Dr. Gravelle is a multi-instrumentalist, composer, performer, and a music educator. Dr. Gravelle is one of the couple of professional fretless guitar players that you can find countrywide, and which I'm excited to talk about today.
The following interview was recorded live on December 2nd, 2020.
At Cal Poly Pomona, Dr. Gravelle is a guitar instructor and a music theory professor. Dr. Gravelle, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Sure. Well, hello, everyone. And Henry, thank you very much for having me on this podcast. I'm really looking forward to talking about my compositions, my fretless guitar, music education, and just in general, music.
Thank you for being here today, by the way. First question that I usually ask every guest in this podcast: how have you been holding up with the pandemic? Have things changed for you? Did anything stop for you? Did you start any new hobbies?
Oh, that's a good question. I think with most people in general, it's been a struggle. I have lots of different things I do, and obviously they've all moved online. Most notably, my teaching at Cal Poly Pomona is all 100% online. It's a completely different experience, and of course, students can say the same thing, but even for us teachers, professors, it's a whole different experience teaching to basically computer screens. I am so much used to, as a teacher, playing off the energy of a room, looking at students' faces, reading their body language. All of these things have a layer of distance between them. So it's very, very difficult. Everything just takes longer. So, it's difficult for everyone, students and professors alike, but well, I hopefully, we managed to get through it. And as far as my other activities, I think with most people, it's the lack of social interaction. You have to do other things to kind of fill that void. So I have lots of professional aspirations that I'm working on. I'm working on my fretless guitar music and other career artistic aspirations. So I'm trying to use the time wisely. I also own a music school in Santa Monica, so I have all of that to work with. I have teachers who are all teaching remotely and whatnot. So in the end, I'm busy, and we'll be very, very glad when we can put this chapter behind us, as most people will be. And as far as new hobbies, have I picked up a new hobby? I wish I could say I had the free time to pick up a new hobby, but no, I've just been doing what I've been doing, and just trying to stay focused on that.
Interesting. Yeah, moving into online learning, especially for music students need to practice, and teachers, they need to teach, and it's the experience is much better in person. With it being online, there's a huge barrier between it, but there's been efforts to make that possible through online method. Would you like to tell us about your background, education,
and how I ended up here finally at Cal Poly? Well, I should first say that starting next fall semester 2021, that will mark my 15th year at Cal Poly Pomona. So it's been quite a journey. As far as me, it depends, gosh, how far back shall I go? I started playing guitar at age 9 or 10. I was very, very much bitten by the music bug, very hard. So I remember telling my parents at age 13, I'm going to be a professional musician. Of course, I knew very little of what that actually entailed. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life. But I also was always very academic, and I always enjoyed the academic environment. So I went and studied music at UCLA. And so I got a bachelor's degree in music with guitar being my instrument performance, and I stayed there. I had a few professors that were really mentors to me. One was named Theodore Norman. He started the guitar department there in the 1970s, and when I was studying with him, he was elderly in his 80s, but he had a profound influence on my development and my interests and whatnot. So I stayed there for my master's degree. And so I got an MFA in guitar performance, and I enjoyed it so much, I actually stayed there for my doctoral degree. So unusually, I have 3 degrees from the same school. My bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree in music or guitar performance. The other professor who had a profound influence on me, the name will sound very familiar to Cal Poly Pomona students, and that's Professor Peter Yates. When I studied as a freshman, first semester or first quarter, we were in quarters, I walk into my first lesson, and there was a gentleman with a deep, authoritative voice, and my name, Professor Yates. And he became my teacher for the next 9 years while I was there with my weekly guitar lessons. So he really shaped my musical visions, my artistic visions, as long as alongside Theodore Norman. So he had a profound impact. After I graduated, though, like most people, I was trying to find my footing artistically, professionally. Well, how do I, I was interested in going in teaching as a professor. That's why I got my doctoral degree. But it's not easy just to go from being a PhD student to becoming a professor. So that's when I opened up my community music school in Santa Monica. And I still have this school many years later, but that was a bridge where I taught guitar lessons there, taught beginning piano lessons there, taught guitar lessons, I should say here, because it's actually where I'm podcasting from at the moment, and where I'm teaching all of my Cal Poly Pomona students at the moment. But I did everything here, and then I got a call or an email from Peter Yates a number of years later, and he just said, we need another guitar instructor at Cal Poly Pomona. Would you like to do this? And of course I said yes. It was part-time. It was just teaching a few guitar students. But once I got to Cal Poly Pomona, I started teaching more and more classes, musicianship classes, the music theory classes, which were a nice fit because I compose music. And I've taught music appreciation, all the guitar curriculum classes. I've taught guitar ensemble, and I've taught the pedagogy and beginning guitar classes. So it just grew from there. And now, like you mentioned in the introduction, I teach guitar and everything guitar related, and also music theory and other classes as needed.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes, it is a lot. And I still also have my school here in Santa Monica. So what I usually, there's one upside, I should say this, there is one upside of the pandemic. It is avoiding the 10 freeway, especially on Friday nights, because living on the west side of Los Angeles, commuting to Pomona is no fun. And I have saved probably 10 hours of commute time per week. And so now going home to teach my music theory classes is a 10-minute drive as opposed to an hour and a 15-minute drive. Or on Friday nights coming home, it could be almost 2 hours. So there is that nice silver lining. It will go away. But it keeps me busy. And what I used to do when I was commuting to Cal Poly Pomona, and will be hopefully again soon, is do all my classes in the morning and then come back to the west side in the afternoon to my school and do all of my teaching and administrating in the afternoon. And then besides all of that, fit in my artistic activities, my practicing, my recording, my composing, and all that stuff.
A couple of upsides while we're like being quarantined. Avoiding traffic is like a perfect example. Because not only do you have to like get to Cal Poly, but you have to like find parking as well. I don't know how it's like for like faculty point of view, but for students, it's chaotic.
Well, there is one downside. We do have, we don't, have the same problems as students have because we have a faculty parking lot, and so we always can find parking, but it's a good 15-minute walk away. And the thing I realized is I was really walking a lot less once I was teaching here, and I thought, okay, I have to schedule this into my routine because I didn't realize how much walking happens from the car around campus, all of that sort of stuff. So if there's anything you asked if I picked up any hobbies, I don't know if I'd call this a hobby, but at least I've tried to emphasize staying in relatively decent physical shape, and that means a lot of walking around to try to replicate all the walking I do on campus.
Yes, it is like for me it's like hard to like find the time to exercise because a lot of my exercise comes from like just walking on campus and utilizing the campus resources,
Yeah,
specifically like the recreation center, the brick, if you've heard of that on
yeah.
campus.
Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a real hard struggle. But I just think, without getting too much into the pandemic thing, I think keeping and maintaining one's health and activity levels high, and trying to stay as healthy and keeping your immune system as strong as possible is really good. And at the very least, it just makes you overall healthier and better, I guess, more psychologically positive going through all of this.
Yes, I want to echo that. Health is really important for musicians.
Yes.
Whether you play an instrument, whether you sing, especially if you sing, keep like maintaining like your physical and mental health. You are a composer as well. Not only do you write music for guitar, but you also write music for mandolin. Would you like to just tell us about like how did you start composing? What you like about composing?
Sure. Composing is an interesting thing. I think people have an urge. You can't, force someone to compose if they don't want to. And I always had that urge, even when I first started playing guitar. When I was young or as a teenager, I was always writing just little things on guitar, little songs or instrumental pieces and whatnot. And then when I got to UCLA, one of the things that Theodore Norman, who I mentioned earlier, really emphasized is that everybody studying an instrument should also compose, because it does two things. It helps you as a player understand music better, right? And then if you can have your compositions played by players, then it helps you understand how music is interpreted by others. So this whole division of having, oh, we're a composer or we're a performer, this is a division that doesn't historically go back forever. This is something that was really something in the 19th century with the rise of the virtuosos. In Europe, you would have this bifurcation of skills. But if you go all the way back to, Bach was virtuoso performer and a composer. And I think it really does inform each. So as a undergraduate, I started composing for the instruments I played, for guitar and whatnot, and just never stopped. I was in a guitar quartet, and that gave me a natural vehicle to write ensemble music for guitar. So I did a lot of that. And as far as mandolin is just another instrument. I play a variety of plucked stringed instruments, and mandolin is one of them. I kind of was smitten by that about 15 years ago, and really thought, okay, I want to become really good at the mandolin. I was all self-taught, but what I did is I applied the same paradigm to learning the mandolin, which is let me learn it and let me compose for it, because that is going to help me. So naturally, I had written some music for mandolin. Also, at the time, I was playing in a trio with Peter Yates and Walter Marsh, and it was guitar, mandolin. I was playing mandolin and arpeggione, which Professor Yates was playing. And it was a very odd trio, but it was great because of that. So I would write music for that and whatnot. So I was always trying to surround myself with opportunities and ensembles to write music. Some people write music electronically and whatnot, but for me, it was always about notes on the page. I want to be played by live humans. And if these are live humans I play with all the time, even better, because I know how they're going to interpret the music. So I have an ensemble or someone I'm writing for.
Yes, I love this like discussion between human versus technology. A lot of our music today is like created electronically. It's like some easier for like some others to use like a DAW and use like software instruments to like compose music. it's also like easier for some people just to like record an instrument that they're able to play. And there's all these like pros and cons, preferences, and all this stuff.
It's a good question. I am not anti-technology and the use of technology.
Hmm.
For me, what I try to do is just to focus on what inspires me the most. And because of my training and my background, a human playing an instrument, even if it's imperfect, it's actually the imperfections that intrigue me, um, has an inspiring quality to my ears that I sometimes lose when it is overly um, created by electronic means. But that being said, I'm very appreciative of composers who are inspired by a completely different paradigm of saying, no, I use this as my toolkit and I can make music from that. So for me, all it does is it opens up a wider palette of available options. But I still feel as an artist, I have to go with what inspires me. And the idea of see what I like about guitar is this is not only, like I said, a human playing a guitar will have these imperfections um, that you can edit out, but I like to actually keep some of them in. But it has an intimacy to it. And that intimacy is just so important. And sometimes if music lacks that intimacy, if it's too cold, if it's too mechanical, if it's too much created by loops and all this sort of stuff, for me, it lacks that inspiration. So that's why I keep acoustic instruments at the heart of what I do. But that's just my perspective. Everyone has to come to their own artistic identity.
Wow. Thank you for telling us all about this. For composers, producers, musicians, you get to decide what you want to use, what you're best at using, into creating your own music.
Well, it's interesting because what I guess, the question I ask myself all the time is, what does age bring? Well, we know what age, unfortunately brings is getting older and slower and all the rest of that stuff. But, it does bring a certain amount of wisdom or clarity. And it took me a long time as an artist to develop my own personal voice. If you asked me when I was 22 or 23, what's your personal voice? I wouldn't know. It was like I was still figuring things out. I was still trying things. And certain things I would try for a couple of months, certain ideas I would try for years, trying out this, trying out that. But I didn't have an overriding philosophy. Now, not that I have some sort of statement of intent or something about how I write music. I just know what works for me. I have a confidence that I didn't have when I was younger, where I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I know I do it well. I know it inspires me, and I know that it communicates to other listeners. And it took me many years to actually arrive at that point, which seems so simple. But we spend so much time when we're younger being inspired by other songwriters or composers and trying to kind of imitate them, to try to get a little bit of their mojo, right? And that's fine. But in the end, your identity can end up being just a pastiche of other composers. And it can come off as competent, but not authentic. So getting to authenticity is a journey that requires getting past that stage. And that took me many years before I finally realized I have my own voice, that I have my own agenda, and I have my own way of doing things that I'm perfectly happy with. And I'm happy that it has found an audience.
Yes. Release after release, performance after performance. It could take years to like find your own sense of artistic personality, and how would you like to express that?
And it takes courage too. That's the other thing. It takes
Courage.
courage to do it your way. Because also in school, and I guess, I'm aware of this because I'm on the other side of the desk. We're given rules. We're giving this. Okay, you're not ready to do this yet. You're not ready to do that yet. And nothing is really encouraging the inward look into developing an artistic identity, which means questioning everything, right? Questioning what's the best way to do things. And so that's one of the reasons why, is for everything that school does give us, very important, it doesn't give us a complete picture. And so finding your identity is a personal journey. And it's a journey of often disassembling things you've been taught.
How did you come across playing the fretless guitar? Was it like an accident? Was it something that looked cool to play? Please tell
It
us.
was 100% accidental, right?
Mm,
Completely accidental. I had no idea. And I think sometimes, in retrospect, we look back on these moments, which are hinge points of our life, which we see, oh, at that moment, my life took a completely different turn. Well, my hinge point towards a fretless guitar was something rather inconsequential. I was probably 13 years ago on Craigslist looking for used guitar gear. And the for sale section, I was just looking at guitars and, uh, wasting time. And I came across a posting of a guy who was selling fretless guitars. He had two of them. I had never even known something existed like this before, right? It was like, what is this? I've been a guitar player for so many years. I've never seen this. And it was somebody who was on the West Side, and he was selling them dirt cheap. $50 for this guitar, $50 for that guitar. And I thought, well, what the hell? I'm just going to go. I literally called him up and I was like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And I went over to this guy's house, and it was a Turkish guy, which later I realized it was no coincidence that he was a Turkish guy, but at the time I didn't know. And these were instruments that he had had a luthier convert to a fretless. He had electric and he had an acoustic. And they were cheap instruments, but the conversion jobs were good. He knew what he was doing. This wasn't someone who had never done this. He said, "Oh yes, in Turkey, this is a thing." And I said, "Oh, I didn't even know this." I said, "I'll buy it." And so I bought it. And he says, "Check out these videos." And he mentioned a few Turkish players, and I was just captivated by the sound. And I remember bringing it to the studio where I am right now. It must have been probably 11 o'clock at night, and just practicing and playing and just exploring it until probably 3 or 4 in the morning. That next day, I must have been just beat because I probably got no sleep, but I just couldn't put it down. It just, for something about it, captivated me. Now, in retrospect, I think what it was were the qualities that I had just mentioned a few minutes ago. It had an intimacy, a humanness, and those are things that I related to, and it allowed me to explore those to a deeper degree than a fretted guitar would. Now, I had no skills or chops, so I was playing notes out of tune and didn't know what I was doing, but I saw the potential. So even from day one, I said, oh, there's something here. And then it's just a matter of doing it. And that's 13 years ago.
I really love stories about discovery.
And I had no idea. I had no idea. So what did I do? Basically, this is what I did. I took my standard path. I said, well, I got to write some music for this. This is how I'm going to learn it. This is what I did when I first played the guitar when I was young. This is what I did when I learned the mandolin. This is what I'm doing with fretless guitar. And especially important for fretless guitar because there's nothing written for fretless guitar. It was at the time I'd go on YouTube, and for fretless guitar, it was just some Turkish players, some other players from the Mideast who were doing it as a substitute oud, but there was no fretless classical guitar. So I thought, well, I have to invent this repertoire to a certain extent. And now I didn't by any means invent the fretless guitar. I have to give kudos to Turkish players because I know now a number of phenomenal players from Turkey and from the Middle East, and it has been established in their culture since probably for about 50 years. But in the West, it was really unusual. And I have seen over the course of these 13 years, two things. Not only a greater exposure and acceptance of fretless nylon string classical guitar, but just fretless guitar in general, right? The whole history of fretless guitar is a fascinating thing. I mean, do you mind me going into this? Because I was fascinated by this.
Sure, I would like to learn more.
Okay, because there are instances that, for example, maybe George Harrison had a fretless guitar that ended up on some of the tracks of the White Album, right? It just recently went up to auction. And Frank Zappa might have used a fretless guitar here and there. And there's videos of Steve Vai who used a fretless guitar, and Joe Satriani used a fretless guitar. But in general, it was considered an oddity. These were fretless electrics. But over the last 10 years, you see more and more videos. This is a great thing about social media, and
Yes.
more people playing them. There are now guitar companies that are putting out fretless guitar models. So you see this for electric fretless guitar, but just in general too with nylon string fretless guitar. And I'm happy to say that I'm kind of part of this wave of acceptance where it went from some weird, odd thing, almost as a kind of parlor trick in the West, like, hey, isn't this weird? I can do this, to now people going, wait, this is a accepted variation of the standard guitar. It's not better, it's not worse, it's different. It's a different thing. And that's part of, I guess, my larger agenda now, 13 years into it, which is not just to um, keep playing it and learning it, which I'm doing, but to help popularize it, to help uh, hopefully in 10 or 15 years, people say, oh, yeah, I'm familiar with the fretless classical guitar. I know a number of artists, or I could go online and buy one if I wanted to. So that's my, I guess, artistic goal, my larger artistic goal.
I like how you're talking about like how like fretless guitar is like an oddity, a niche thing. Is it okay if I can like tell my story of how I discovered the fretless guitar?
Absolutely, please.
Yes. So prior to coming to Cal Poly, back at community college, I have a friend who was studying classical guitar at the time. He was like telling me all these like guitar stuff because he's a guitar player and that stuff. And then he ended up telling me about like fretless guitars and that stuff. And I was just like, ooh, I'm curious about that. So I typed in like fretless guitar into YouTube, and actually the first thing that I saw was one of your videos. It was just titled "Fretless Guitar," and it was your song "Proof of Existence" that you performed, and I was like, "Whoa!" I was expecting it to like make that sound because you think it would like usually how you would like hear of like classical guitar and stuff, but it sounds like very a little bit ethereal. I will like to say about that. Very reverberant as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And this is what's really interesting. I mean, guitar is arguably the most popular instrument throughout the world, and you would think there's nothing new under the sun. But this is why I have encountered something really fascinating, because, of course, I've been involved with guitar almost my whole life, but there's this, whoa, I've never realized this eye-opening shock that people have when they hear what it can do, right? Like if I played for you, oh yeah, here's a steel string guitar, electric guitar, you pretty much know what you're going to get. But with the fretless classical guitar, people are saying, this is such a surprise, this is so beautiful, and it's really meaningful to me to hear that. But like, it's kind of echoing what you said, is they're just interested in the sound of it. And again, that sound is so human and personal, and that was the same thing that interests me. I saw that potential, so I have kind of dedicated the last 13 years of helping or at least developing the skills to do that to the greatest degree I can. So, okay, so obviously a guitar is a plucked string instrument. We pluck the strings. Now, a guitar normally has these wires on the neck that differentiate the pitches, right? So you put your finger between two wires, which we call the frets or the fret wires, and that would give you a pitch and then another pitch. So it's a tempered instrument, like a piano. You have 12 notes per octave, right? Now, as you know, there are instruments that are string instruments that just don't have those, like a violin or a cello or a viola. Those are just Western instruments. There's instruments throughout the world that don't have that. Those are fretless instruments. So with those instruments, of course, you have to tune each note. You don't have, these fence posts, I like to say, the fret wires, that you just are, in between each fence post, you get the note. So, okay, so that's the downside. You have to tune each note. But the upside is the beauty is in the nuance, because the ultimate instrument where you have to tune every note, of course, is the voice. And you have complete control over notes, how much vibrato, how you want to slide between notes, arrive between notes? Do you want to ornament them with notes that are not part of the scale? So what taking the frets off does is it opens up the ability to play in many ways. You can still just play like a Western violinist or a cellist and apply vibrato to tempered notes, or you can play with a more Eastern sound and use microtones, or you can use vibrato to a greater extent, even on chords. You can using vibrato on chords, which you can't do too much on fretted guitar. You can do a lot more. So glissando, slides, all of these things, in my estimation, are just helping the instruments sound more human, right? And human sounding instruments sound more intimate. The most intimate thing is the human voice. So that's where I see the potential. So that's what it does. And also it changes the tone a little bit too, because on a standard guitar, when you play a note, the string is being stopped by the hard fret wire, a metal wire. But when you're playing a fretless guitar, it's being stopped by the soft pads of your fingertips. So it absorbs some of that energy. So it has kind of a darker, warmer sound, the tone. You put those two together and you got a very interesting sound. Now, it also does take away some of the volume of the instrument. So when I created my most recent fretless guitar, I had someone convert it, and that's a whole different story. But I had someone convert it from a standard guitar to a fretless and put a pickup in. So now I amplify it also and add reverb and whatnot. It seems to really love that sound. So I've kind of developed my own preferred sound of the fretless guitar, which is a combination completely acoustic and supported by amplification and reverb, sometimes delay. And it seems to be exactly what I want. But I had no template for this. This was all kind of like, what should I do? I don't know. What do I like to do? Right? Even getting the fretless guitar made, you can't go right now at the moment. You can't go to a guitar store or online and say, hey, I want to buy a fretless guitar from some major manufacturer. They don't make them. So you have to get it converted from a standard guitar or do it yourself, or hopefully find some used one online. Or there are a few luthiers in Turkey and in the Middle East who will make you one for a lot of money. But in general, it's hard. It's hard to get your hands on this. And this is why more people don't play it. But when I decided I needed to upgrade from the one I bought from the Turkish guy on Craigslist, because as fun as it was a cheap guitar. I said, okay, I'm going to throw about $800 into this. I could be throwing money down the drain. I bought myself used on Craigslist a nylon string guitar, and I went to a luthier. I said, tear those frets out and let's make this into a fretless. Let's put a pickup in it. Let's see how this works. And it actually turned out fine, but I had no guarantee. So I had no template of what it was supposed to sound like or even like look like. And so luckily it all turned out well, but I had that sort of jump. I just had to jump into the deep end.
We actually have Dr. Gravelle with his fretless guitar. Would you like to do like a little demonstration?
Sure, because we can talk about this all we want, but so if you hear the sound, yeah, so there you go. That was just me messing around, just improvising some stuff on the guitar. So you see, what's nice about, because the difference between, of course, a guitar and let's say something like a violin or something is that we can play chords. So you get the sound of the guitar with these chords, which are really nice. But then you also get the sound of the glissando. So you put them together. It's a very beguiling sound.
Very beautiful. Even though you were just like improvising and all that stuff. Even though it's just like a guitar that's like fretless, I feel like it's like a totally different instrument itself as well.
And what I like to do, I bring up that point because what it does is it is an instrument of illusions, because when you hear it, you hear a little bit of that Eastern sound, because the guitar grew out of an instrument called the oud. The oud is still popular in the Middle East, and there's Turkish ouds and Persian ouds and great oud virtuosos. But the oud is a fretless plucked instrument, right? And you hear echoes of the oud. You can also hear echoes of the Indian sarod, which is another fretless instrument. Echoes of the Japanese shamisen, which is another fretless instrument. You can also hear echoes of even like blues. You get this kind of bluesy sort of slide sound. And then you hear echoes again of the human voice. And so what it does is it's a little bit of all of that, but it's its own thing. So I like to say it's the ultimate postmodern instrument, in the sense that it's not a reinvention. It is simply allowing many more influences to the table. So it's the culmination of all of these influences that creates a unique, singular identity.
You compose and record music for a fretless guitar. Have you encountered any like pros or cons with making and recording music for fretless guitar? I noticed that like dealing with like you highlighted like how fretless guitar has like some like nuances and like all these different things that are like different from regular guitar, glissando, microtones, and all that stuff.
Well, as far as recording, I guess I have a studio and a recording engineer that I work with very well. I recorded a whole album of fretless guitar music called The Realm of Endless Concepts. I have new singles being released. I use this engineer and recording studio every time. So we have a great working relationship. We get a good sound. And we worked on it to get a good sound, but I'm very happy with that. And of course, recording solo is a piece of cake, so there's no issue there. So there's no issue with recording solo. That being said, I'd like to, and I'm planning to use it more in an ensemble environment. So I have some music that I'm going to be using as duets and trios, using the fretless guitar, and we'll see how that turns out. I'd love to. There's a great Turkish guitarist named Cenk Erdogan, and he's used it in a lot of film scores. So it can be absolutely beautiful used with strings and other instruments. So it really does have a lot of potential. But my first priority, the reason why I recorded so much solo guitar, was to build up a repertoire of music, because I think this is important along the lines of what my agenda was, which was to help popularize it. So I need to write music for it. So I'm starting with my concert level pieces, but I'm also writing easier etudes and easier little pedagogical pieces in case people want to start the journey of playing the fretless guitar, so they don't feel overwhelmed. Where do we start? That's the thing. Is a lot of times what happens is people, they do what you did, which is they go on YouTube. They often will see one of my videos. My stuff is all over YouTube, and then they'll say, "Great!" And if they're a guitar player, they're often then message me and say, Where do I get one? How do I learn?" There's so many questions, and I say, "Well, getting one's hard at the moment. I'm working on this." Um, and where do I learn? I said, "Well, you need to have a pathway, and I'm working on this too." So I am actually working on, besides composing for the fretless guitar and playing my pieces for the fretless guitar, I'm working on a whole pedagogical method of teaching fretless guitar from the beginning all the way up to as advanced level as you want. And then also I am working with, interestingly, guitar makers. I have a guitar maker I am in the beginning stages of working with to help create a commercial fretless nylon string classical guitar that can be bought online, or that can be purchased eventually when stores open, that you can find in guitar stores. So I'm trying to deal with, okay, can people get fretless guitars? When they get fretless guitars, I'd like to provide the materials of how to play the fretless guitar. And then, of course, I'm writing my own music and doing my own videos, so I have myself as an artist as an example.
How have you been able to like encounter fretless guitar players, and like whether you're able to like find a community of fretless guitars players out there?
Well, absolutely I can. And this is where the great thing about social media is. Of course, we all know the pitfalls of social media, but I have benefited greatly from social media in the sense that it has connected me to pretty much every fretless guitarist out there. And I know where it's popular and where it's not so popular. So this whole journey of social media has also exposed me to all of these other people around the world. And the way that it started, it was very interesting. I had a friend maybe about 3 or 4 years ago who said, "Buzz, why don't you put your stuff up on Instagram?" And at that time I was like, I don't even have an account. I don't know. And he goes, No, I think people would like it. And so I started, just doing little 60-second videos of me in the studio right here playing. And it caught on. And I started getting more and more followers, and I had a few things kind of go viral, and the whole guitar community there of Instagram took note. And so I got a lot of followers. I don't know, like 23,000 or something right now. And it started out in the Middle East, of all places, because I think it was its association with the oud.
Hmm.
But I wasn't playing it like a Persian player, and I wasn't playing it like a Turkish player. I was playing it just like a Western trained musician. And I think they saw that hadn't been done before, right? I think looking at my analytics, I saw, early on, the two most popular cities where people were listening were like Istanbul and Tehran. And I was okay, this is telling me something. And then from there, I put some videos on YouTube, and that's where it really opened me up to a larger guitar community, especially a lot of Americans and Europeans. And so the video you mentioned somehow kind of went viral. I don't know, maybe viral is an overstatement, but it became very popular with, it has, I don't know, something like 1.2 million views now.
Yes.
And as far as a fretless guitar piece, it's one of the most viewed fretless guitar pieces out there. And that has served as an introduction to many people. And so I'm just trying to capitalize on this to further my agenda, which is not only just, listen to me, but there's a lot of music to be made on this thing, and we're in the infancy of this. And if you get creative, talented guitar players, get this thing in their hands, teach them how to play it, and unleash them, I am hopeful that within, like I said, 10, 15 years, you're going to see it all over the place. You'll see it in recordings of all different styles of music. Hopefully you'll see it on movie soundtracks, and it will kind of move beyond this small niche. So social media has been incredibly important that way. And like I had mentioned before, I have met the first player that I was advised to listen to when I went and bought my fretless guitar from the Turkish person off Craigslist was a guy named Cenk Erdogan. And I listened to him, and he was amazing. And now, it's just as easy as a click and a little text message just to say, Cenk, I have a question. What about this? Or what about that? And obviously with all of these players. So I communicate with all of the fretless players around the world. Um, and I'm very happy about that. So this couldn't have happened 50 years ago. 50 years ago, before social media, there was no way this could have happened. But it's the perfect time, and it's like I said, it's one of the great advantages of having instant connection with everyone. Is a community, and it's growing. It's still growing. This is in its infancy still.
Social media is like really good for like niche communities because that's like a way for them to like um reach out to like community and possibly go viral without having to like meet within like a specific location. I noticed that some niche communities are like location based as well, but if you're interested but you're not within that range, it would suck without social media, but with social media it does help with
Well,
that connecting
what's
with people.
what's so nice about the fretless guitar is, like I said, it speaks to so many different cultures. I just want to read something. I just was looking today at my comments on one of my YouTube videos, and a comment just came in. I just thought of this very second. It says 2 hours ago that it says here from just some random person on YouTube. It says, this reminds me a lot of visiting my family in Japan when I was much smaller. I don't know why or if it's even important, but it gives off this very free, ethereal, and peaceful tone that's so cool and reminiscent of that to me. So here's someone talking about, it's Japanese aspects. And then I've heard other people say, again, the Middle Eastern, I've heard other people say other things. And so it's not limited to one culture. It speaks universally. And this is why I'm excited about it. And I feel it has potential to really explode in popularity.
Yes. Another great thing about social media, you can get your music possibly across the globe. And
Yes.
and you just presented like a different perspective about like your music as well.
It's really interesting. I'm talking about this. I'm teaching careers in music this semester, and we're talking about how the great thing is that anyone can get their music up on Spotify and everything. And the bad thing is everyone has their music up on Spotify. And so it is like a drop in an ocean of music. Thousands and thousands of tracks are being uploaded every day. So just having accessibility isn't the name of the game anymore. It's really about cultivating a community and a fan base and working within that fan base. So when I think about it, I think, okay, well, my fan base is fretless guitarists, but let me expand out. Let me just expand out to guitar players in general. Then let me expand out to just people who the music speaks to in general, right? And all of those audiences are my audience, but I really do try to think about cultivating a community and building from there. And I think that's really important when you're using social media and trying to find an audience for your music, because otherwise it'll just be swallowed up in a sea of new music.
Moving on to the next question, just like some stuff about most watched video on YouTube, which is simply titled Fretless Guitar, but the song is titled Proof of Existence. It's gained over 1.2 million views, and you have over 13.2 thousand subscribers on YouTube. First of all, I would like to congratulate on you on this achievement. How did it feel when you saw like your video started going like viral and be watched by like hundreds and thousands of people?
Well, of course, it feels good. I mean, the question always is, how do you know if this is going to happen, or how do you replicate this? And I don't know if you can. Of course, it's all about the YouTube logarithmic formulas and viewer retention and watch time and all that sort of stuff. And in a certain sense, that's important to know about. But, basically, I tell people put your best stuff out there. When I first put that video up, that song is off my album. It didn't really do much the first month or so. It just kind of but then it gained traction, and it gained more traction, and it gained more traction, and then it just really got bumped up, and so it was kind of like a snowball of just more and more and more traction. That was unlike, I had a video on Instagram that went to like 100,000 views, and that was instant, and that was like I got like 8,000 subscribers in like a weekend, and that was a little overwhelming. But the thing about Proof of Existence video, that was a slow build up. Now, the nice thing is everything relates to each other, because from that video, many of them went to Spotify to listen to it. So now my Spotify, I'm getting, a good amount of listens per month, a good amount of streams per month, 100, 150,000 listening to the album, which is great. So everything kind of reinforces each other. Instagram reinforces YouTube, which reinforces Spotify, and all of that. But that being said, all of these, I'm not gaining substantial. I mean, I'm gaining income, but it's not like I'm buying a house in the Bahamas because of this stuff.
Yeah.
All this is doing is helping, giving me exposure.
Right.
And that's really what I'm doing. I'm thinking, okay, now that I have a certain spotlight on me, yes, it's a niche spotlight, but I have a spotlight. What do I want to do with that exposure? And that's where I go back to, well, I want to do something larger than myself, which is to help popularize this instrument.
You said that each like social media had like different algorithms of like what stuff goes viral. I seem to experience that too. I've been on like Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok, and they all work differently for some reason. I don't know why, but it's just basically what they decide. It feels like they're deciding.
And it's frustrating because, of course, they change the rules too. And you're always trying to keep up with it. And that's why I feel like letting go of trying to understand it and treat it like a science is sometimes kind of healthy, because then you can end up watching YouTube videos about, how to build your subscriber list for 6 hours. And I kind of feel like, well, just really focus on doing something of value.
Yes.
And having it to be unique. And I guess the point being is, when I was doing all of this, I never did it with the agenda of wanting to have a lot of popularity. When I did this album, it was for me a personal goal. My first personal goal was, okay, can I write a song for fretless guitar? And I was like, okay, I did that. Then my next personal goal was, with Instagram, can I do a 60-second clip every week? Okay, I could do that. I have about 160 of them up now. And I was like, okay, I can do that. Something new, 60 seconds, no problem. And then my next goal was, well, can I do an album of 12 songs? And for me, that was what I was interested in. I finished my album. This is great. The popularity, sure, I want people to hear it, but that wasn't my main impetus. My main impetus is it was a personal goal to achieve. And so all of the growing popularity is beautiful. But all it does is it gives me inspiration to create new goals to try to achieve. Right? So that's the nice thing about achieving those goals. So I feel like, oh, I got 1 million views on a video. Great. Next goal. Let's move on. Right? And then, or, oh, I have this or that. Great. Let's move on. So that's why right now, working with a guitar manufacturer to try to bring a fretless classical guitar model to market, that's a goal that, to me, if I can achieve, will feel just as satisfying as the other goals I have.
Did you happen to like do any like promotion or marketing for this video, or did it just went viral by itself? I know like how your video would go viral, because like you're literally one of the few like fretless guitar players on the internet, and one of the few composers for fretless guitar. I see how this could go viral, but I was just like curious if you did any like other marketing.
No, I did none of that. You know, they always talk about social media marketing and all the rest of that. It's interesting because I had recorded the tune and then I wanted to do a couple of videos from different songs on the album, different tracks on the album. And so this was just one of them. And I called up a Cal Poly Pomona student, Braden Wiggins, a former music major MIS student who had done some videos before. We had gone skydiving and he had videotaped it. And I said, okay, let's do this video. And we went down to the Japanese garden there right next to the Triangle building that's being torn down. And we just did it. And we threw it up there. We had no idea. And we threw up another one and, you know, and we've thrown up a third one. And for some reason, that one took off. Why that particular one, I don't know. I don't have the objectivity because, you know, I like all my compositions the same amount, but something about the way, you know, the music, the way it was filmed, the sound, all that sort of stuff just really captured people's attention. And, you know, YouTube's interesting because once you get a certain amount of viewers and listens, it keeps popping up on people's recommended. So I did nothing though. I had no plans. I had no agenda. I do have to say at that time I had promoted it on my Instagram and I had, you know, thousands of Instagram followers. So that kind of helped. But I don't know how it grew like that. People liked it. It's kind of simple. And I've done other things I like just as much, but they don't have the same popularity. So it's really kind of hard to predict.
Because of like how you have went viral and you have gained a following, have you let your followers on social media like influence you on what you're doing for your projects?
Not really.
Mm.
Not really. I mean, a lot of times I get followers who are they're proud of their culture and they want me to kind of like dig into it. Have you tried listening to, you know, Persian music and having Persian melodies? Have you tried listening to, you know, the Pakistani melodies? Have you tried listening to these Turkish melodies? And you should do this and you should do that. And that's fine. I listen to that, but I have a pretty, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I have a pretty well-defined artistic vision of what I want for myself. So I listen, but everything's filtered through my own viewpoint, and I kind of have my own agenda based on my own inspirations. That being said, sometimes people share things with me which I find very revealing, and I enjoy it. Someone will say, "Oh, look at this, you know, Egyptian lute player or whatever." Oh, that's great. Or listen to this, you know, South American guitarist. I go, "Oh, that's great," and it does influence me.
I was wondering whether because of like that video and like social media following, has this like contributed to like a raise in streams or like any music purchases? Did it like provide any like more royalties? I know this would be like one source of income.
Sure. Yes. Because I have it linked, I have my Spotify linked. So if people like that, I just say, "Hey, go check out my Spotify." So it does. It really increased. As soon as that video went up, my Spotify went through the roof. And of course, Spotify is a whole different game. Spotify is all about getting playlisted. And so, as you probably know, that you have user playlists, you have Spotify's logarithmic playlists, and then you have their editorial curated playlists, which are the best ones. And what happened is that track got more listens made my Spotify listens go up, which threw me on a lot more playlists. So now I think I'm on like 1,000 different playlists on Spotify, which then put me to the attention of the curated playlist. So now I'm on a couple curated playlists on Spotify, and you know I may get 40,000 listens a month just from those two playlists. So it wasn't just people listen to more of my Spotify. It was the whole Spotify playlist game. So getting on those curated playlists, which are so everyone wants to do that, and there's all these videos about how to do it and how to increase your odds. But for me, it was a direct result of more listens, and the direct result of more listens was because of YouTube's popularity of that video.
One of my last questions about proof of existence is just basically the song itself, I'm like I'm like a little like song nerd, and I like to like know like a little bit of like the development. Um, how did it came about? How did you like? Why is it called like proof of existence? I was wondering if you would like to explain that.
Okay. Oh, yeah. This is a good question. There's a lot here. Well, it came about as all the tracks on my album came about. They started out as the 60-second Instagram videos. And so my Instagram page was like my beta testing because I would throw up 60 seconds of something and some things people would really like. And then I could go after about 6 months, I would go back to my different postings and I'd say, oh, I like that one. I like that one. I like that one. Let me develop these into full tunes. Right.
Hmm.
Um, but that's what I did with that one. I said, okay, I'm going to try take that. I liked it. I've listened to it now, and I've gone back a few months later, and it still wears well. And then I developed it into a full composition, and then recorded it there. But that was kind of nice. That's kind of a nice aspect of Instagram, is I could write 50 excerpts and take the best 12. And so it gave me a chance to kind of cull through and just pick out the best of what I'm capable of doing. Um, Now, that being said, proof of existence is kind of in reference to, I think, what one of the impulses of all artists are, right? I think one of the things that everyone wants to do is to have, okay, what is evidence of my being here on earth? Right, and a lot of times, we write music because we enjoy it, but also because it's a document. It's a document that hopefully you are remembered by. And this is what I was kind of wanting to do, which was artistically, I want to create something of lasting value that is going to outlive me, right? Or as you might say, proof of existence. And so that is kind of the inspiration behind a piece like this, which is that artistic impulse to create something that outlives us. Um, and so that is what was the inspiration for that particular track.
Nice. Um, Actually, proof of existence. The title itself, I actually know another song. Um, that's titled "Proof of the Existence" from like a video game. I was wondering like whether you see like your music being used for like other media, whether it's for like
Ah,
film, television, video games.
absolutely. One of the I sometimes joke is I get lots of comments on my videos, and there's two comments I get more than any other. One is, "You got tabs?" And I'm like, okay, that's a guitar player thing. And the second one is, oh my God, this would be great for this video game, for Red Dead Redemption or for Last of Us, or you should put it in this video game. And everyone's like, you should have it in this video game. Now, I agree, because the music is so evocative, I think it would work fantastic with imagery. So, movies or video games, I am very much interested in. And that is another area of exposure, and an area that I'm interested in is trying to get these synced up and get more exposure in video games and movies. So 100%, I think it has the potential, and that's what everyone just also says is, oh, this would be great in this video. So that's on my artistic agenda also. I would love to have it be featured, on a movie or a big video game.
Yeah, getting your songs like licensed will like help progress um basically what fretless guitar is, and that stuff, provide more exposure.
Yep.
And it's definitely something that I would like to I would be curious and like to look forward to.
So it's all about, the right people's, the right combination of circumstances and needs all lining up. So I'm patient, but I'm gonna work on that. So that's on my agenda also, and hopefully, in sometime in the not too near future, you may hear it on one of those platforms.
So we are about to head into the ending of the podcast. It's probably the most important question of the podcast. I'm very curious about this. Is Buzz your real name?
uh, on my birth certificate, no. My real name is Darren. That being said, it is not a stage name. It is a name I have had since birth. and I was named after Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut, the second man on the moon.
Ooh.
There you go. Little tidbit of information.
Yes, I love. His name is like Buzz. It has that like Zappa tone.
It does. Yeah, I like names
Zapparine.
with Z's. Exactly, got Z's in it. Well, here's the ironic thing. Again, we're talking about these hinge moments in life. Picking up the fretless guitar, it's just a perfect name for a fretless guitar player, Buzz. I mean, if I was making this up in the universe, I couldn't come up with a better combination than someone who is talking about the name Buzz, because the guitar has this kind of wow sort of sound. And of course, my Instagram handle is fret_buzz, fret buzz, and my YouTube channel name used to be Fretless Buzz. So I kind of play it up, and people think it's a stage name. No, but it's not. I've had it since birth, and it's what everyone calls me.
Are your like students like limited to calling you Dr. Gravelle or?
Yeah, they call me Dr. Gravelle because they're worried about their grade. But after they're out of my class, they can call me Buzz. I don't care.
Yes, even with me, I mean, since you are like a faculty member, I'm like supposed to call you Dr. Gravelle. So yeah, but I really like the name Buzz.
Yeah. Now, I've only met a few Buzzes, and it's really interesting meeting Buzzes is because, it's kind of like you're meeting some long lost cousin when, you have that same name. Because it's funny, I have a theory about this. I feel that like our name means something, and my name has always been kind of unique and singular. Some people love it. Some people are like, oh, that's kind of a goofy kid's name, but it's always been that way for me. So I don't know, maybe that shaped my personality from a young child, that I went against the grain and did things my own way, in part because my name was such an unusual name and people took note of it. I don't know.
How does the future look like for you? You've talked about like pushing your agenda of like providing more exposure for a fretless guitar. I was wondering if there's like any more things that you'll be pushing out. What should we be keeping an eye for?
Yes, absolutely. Boy, the future is bright, as we say. So I have my goals. I have my artistic goals, which are centered around the fretless guitar and getting more exposure and more playing and getting a fretless guitar to market and developing the pedagogy and the materials and all of that stuff. But also with Professor Yates retiring in a couple of weeks, I will be more in control of the guitar studies curriculum at Cal Poly Pomona. So one of the things I would like to do is to use my exposure as an artist to help build up and recruit some students, guitar students for Cal Poly Pomona, and really see what we can do with the guitar department to make it a destination department for guitarists to arrive at, and a unique department that is plays to its strength. So one thing that Cal Poly I think is great at is it has the music industry studies, and it has the other traditional performance and music ed, but the guitar players tend not to be the real top-notch classical players, but they tend to be very creative players, and I feel that as myself as a guitarist, I am that way. So it could be a great way and a great place to help foster individuality, unique visions, and that's how I was taught, and that's also keeping in line with the legacy of both Theodore Norman and Peter Yates, because they taught me that from the beginning, to create your own artistic identity. So I hope to, with Cal Poly Pomona, keep doing that and expanding upon that.
I wish you luck on all this. You've been teaching at Cal Poly for 15 years.
Yes.
So
I know the ins and outs. What they say is I have institutional knowledge. That's the technical term. So, which is good. It's a place I love teaching, and quite frankly, I'm looking forward to getting back inside the building and the rooms and quite frankly the couches that this is trying to replicate these conversations, because the couches there in the music department are just some of the best social center there is there, and a lot of great networking, unofficial networking happens there. So
yeah,
I hope the couches could be filled with students soon enough again.
It will probably always be occupied after when we come back.
Yes.
to campus. We talked a lot about social media and your online presence. Would you like to remind the audience where we can
Yes.
connect with you on social media, where we can find your music?
Yes. So my YouTube, just type in Buzz Gravelle. That's my. I changed my name from. You can get an artist name, so I think it's just Buzz Gravelle. But if you type it in, you'll get it. Buzz Gravelle. You get my channel, and my Instagram is at @fret_buzz. I have a Facebook /Buzz Gravelle musician, and I have a website, buzzgravelle.com. And then, of course, on Spotify, just type in Buzz Gravelle as an artist, and you can stream all my fretless guitar music. And I have a new single coming out in about a couple of weeks. So that's, I'm excited about that. But if you go to one of my media sources, I link everything, so it's easy to find me.
All right. Well, we have reached the end of the episode. Dr. Gravelle, I would like to thank you for dropping in today and having a talk with us.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I, of course, love the questions and being able to explain my motivations and my agendas and whatnot. And I'm glad that there's continued curiosity about this. And I'm proud as a faculty member at Cal Poly Pomona that not only does it reflect on me as an artist, but I hopefully want it also to reflect on Cal Poly Pomona's music department. We should all be proud of being part of it.
So this concludes our episode, and I would like to thank anyone for tuning in. Hope all of you have a nice day.